Right now, 70 degrees here at Cape Hill. Winging It Wednesday is on the way, being brought to you by Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Yes, Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Now, as far as Cadillac, a great display of all the different Cadillacs. Anything you're looking for in terms of luxury, you know, it's kind of like the next step, the next chapter. Whether you are looking for like an SUV or you want something just beautiful in the sedan line, you can find it at Service Cadillac. They're at 1212 Ambassador Caffrey. You can shop online at servicegm.com. You know, they're Louisiana's number one choice, and I got to tell you, this is a 4,000 square foot Cadillac showroom. 4,000 square feet. I mean, that's amazing.
Have you been there yet?
Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Oh, my goodness. The cars are just gorgeous. The showroom is gorgeous. It's so easy to navigate,
Yes.
to get in, to get out. They've got everything right there.
That's what I love,
and
too.
not to mention the people are just great.
Yeah. You know, there's a reason they call it service, because it is amazing service. And look, Cadillac offers all the luxury, and you can find exactly what you're looking for. Whether it's an SRX, like this, you know, crossover vehicle, the stylish one they have, or if it's the brand new Cadillac XTS, you can find that there too. You need to visit the showroom, see the 4,000 square feet. I mean, it's amazing. And luxury is what you want, right? Everybody does.
And just as you said, there's that service after the sale. And I'm telling you, you don't have to go out of town to get absolutely world-class service right there.
Just do this. Go to 1212 Ambassador Caffrey. If you want to look online first, then visit them. Easy to do. ServiceGM.com.
We're dancing.
We're dancing.
We're dancing.
I don't think Warren's into the dancing
He's not looking.
part.
He's reading the paper.
Well, you have to pick a microphone. Which one do you want? You want that one there? That you can. You want both of them?
He's
Who
in
do you
stereo.
think you are? Steve Peliquin?
A double dose of Warren, right?
That's
there.
right. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, ma'am, and you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine.
Good.
You look like you're ready to, you know, kind of spin it up, get crazy in here with our topics.
Are we ready
this
to
morning.
rumble?
I think we're ready to rumble. All right, so we have a lot of topics to get to this morning, and then we want to try to add one because that's always fun. You know, why have just a few when you can have several? All right, so let's talk a little bit about Ben Rhodes. So Ben Rhodes, you know, one of the questions that we wanted to know from our panelists is, you know, did the White House lie? Did Ben Rhodes just straight out lie when he was spinning the Iran story about the nuclear deal? I know, right? Carol has been chomping at the bit for this one. We've got to let her go first on this. All right, tell us what you think, lady.
Okay, let me think. Did he lie and should he be fired? Well, let's look at the record of this White House. They lied about the stimulus, cash for clunkers, GM bailout, green energy, boondoggle, Obamacare, Benghazi. I could go on and on. Bergdahl. He fits right in with this administration. It's just amazing. It's really funny because before this story came up, I had watched something on the news by someone who's kind of an insider in this arena, who said that Ben Rhodes is, well, maybe it was a published report, but anyway, it was from one of the legitimate news organizations that had done some research into this guy. This was before all this broke. And they said the guy is a pathological liar. I mean, they pretty much laid it out there that he has a hard time telling the truth. So obviously he fits right in with the Obama administration. I mean, but then to go out, now the ironic thing here is that they're claiming executive privilege. This guy spilled the beans in the New York Times. And, I mean, just let it all hang out that they absolutely manipulated the media because they're a bunch of 25 to 27-year-olds who could be easily manipulated. And so they absolutely did. And as we mentioned earlier, you know, spin is one thing. When you spin, you have a core bit of truth that you're trying to put a pretty face on, you know. There's some kind of core truth in there. This guy pretty much let it out. They were lying through their teeth the whole time. And as more details of the Iran deal come out, it turns out that's the truth. That's the one thing that is the truth. They were lying through their teeth, and we're not going to know the full ramifications of this deal for a long, long, long time.
Warren, your thoughts?
I think the scariest thing about all of this is who is Ben Rhodes, and that you know, he has a major in creative writing. He has absolutely no experience whatsoever in anything remotely associated with national security. There's a friend of mine in New York whose son knows Ben Rhodes. I think they work together someplace, and he was talking about this when the guy first went to work in the White House. He says, my God, he said, this kid is like 26 years old, has never done anything except write some articles for a paper or whatever, and said now he has been promoted to Deputy National Security Advisor. Those are the people who basically decide, you know, who we're going to war with, if we're going to war, who needs to be killed, who doesn't need to be killed. I mean, you know, this is just outrageous. And, I mean, I don't know. This thing tells more than you can imagine, I think, about the situation that we're actually in. You got these people who are just this shallow. Now, creative writing, along with national security, I understand that you know, that these outfits like the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and those people, they lie for a living. You know, that the whole premise is built on, I mean, everything they do is basically against the law, because it's against the law to do espionage in any country in the world. So, you know, they write all these cover stories and all this kind of such stuff. But, yeah, I mean, this is outrageous. It really is. But, actually, you know, I still think that we need to be negotiating with Iran and such stuff. But the kind of stuff that they pull, it does more harm to the country than it does good.
232-1542, 232-1542. If you want to get in on the discussion with Winging It Wednesday this morning, again, 232-1542. We'd like to know what you've been thinking too, Carol.
One of the lines in the letter that the lawmakers sent to try to get this guy to come testify, they said, we call on you to dismiss Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes before he further tarnishes the office of president. I don't think that's possible. I mean, I don't think it's possible to further tarnish this administration when they have so patently lied and misled Congress over and the American people over and over again. Who cares about Congress? I mean, they mislead people too. But I mean, the American people get lied to over and over. I know. I shouldn't have said that. But I mean, really and truly, who's zooming who here, as Aretha Franklin might say? Who's zooming who?
All right. Topic number 2. I figured there'd be a lot of discussion. We're going to let Warren start first on this one. So here is the topic. Now, this is from, obvious current events. President Obama saying new federal guidelines on bathrooms in public schools aim to protect transgender students from bullying. Obama told BuzzFeed that society has an obligation to make sure everyone is treated fairly and that the dignity of all children is affirmed. So want to know, he says the guidelines that the administration announced require public schools to let transgender students use the bathrooms or locker rooms that match their sexual identity rather than the sex shown on their birth certificates. Warren, what do you think in general?
I'm so confused about this. I don't even know where to start. First thing I would say, you know, when you start talking about bullying, we need to define what bullying is. So if you're forcing kids to share a bathroom with somebody of opposite sex or whatever, is that bullying those people? You know, are they going in there and telling these 12 and 13-year-old girls that you got to go in there and take a shower with this guy? Is that like bullying her? I don't know. I would think it would be, you know, and so, but this is what I don't understand about this whole concept. It seems to me like that if you're a gay person, you're really going to be more attracted to the people of your same sex. It looks to me like that gay males would prefer to be showering with other males than they would with women. I understand that if you want to find the best place to find a whole group of lesbians is to go to a topless dance club, because most of them are. Because it's a perfect place for them to work. I mean, I don't know. That's what I was told. But this whole thing is
that's a new one.
This whole thing is just is so out of whack with me. And one thing I do want to say is that the president said that he will withhold federal funds if you don't do that. I believe that is impossible for a president to do, because I think that this happened back with Richard Nixon when he decided that there were some funds for different programs that he didn't like, and he said, well, we'll just withhold the funds. We will impound the money. The agencies took it to the court. The Supreme Court ruled. The president doesn't have a choice over whether or not to spend the money. That is Congress's responsibility. They do the budget. They decide that his job is to just simply spend it. And so, this whole thing is it's more bizarre every day.
All right, let's go to the phone lines real quick. Hi, you're on our Winging It Wednesday show. Your thoughts, please.
In 1961, President Kennedy said we will send a man to the moon. In 2016, President Obama said, we will send a man to pee in the ladies' room.
All righty. Okay. Thank you for your thoughts.
Straight
and
from the internet.
return him safely to the hallways.
Straight from the internet. That is a funny juxtaposition. They've got a picture of President Kennedy.
All right. Back to the phone lines. Your thoughts?
Yes. I think that public policy should be crafted for the benefit of the whole society. And we all have our different walks in life. We all have to figure out where we fit in to this society. And singling out a special group and giving them rights over the concerns of the majority of safety and privacy is not the right thing to do. We all need to fight against this. We need to call our school board representative. We need to make our opinions known. We need to show up at meetings, and we need to fight.
Okay, thank you for your thoughts. All right, Carol, time now for your thoughts on this issue.
Well, it's another wedge issue, or should I say wedgie issue, that the Obama, I know that's terrible. That's what happens when you get me up early, Bernie. But it is a wedge issue that just in time for the election. Let's get everybody stirred up. Let's get the gays stirred up. Let's get transgender people. What percentage of the population is legitimately transgender, and what are we doing to norms across this country? I guess I missed that amendment to the Constitution that says Congress shall make no law restricting anybody from going into any restroom anytime if they claim to be some sex or another, or both sexes, or hermaphrodite. I don't know. This whole thing is crazy. It is a wedge issue, and it affects so few people in terms of the transgender population, but it will affect everybody else in terms of the impact of this law when they try to enforce this thing. I don't see how it's enforceable, to be honest with you. These are local issues, and frankly, what is the federal government doing except creating a wedge issue to really get people fired up when this is not something that affects a huge number of people. I don't want anyone to be discriminated against in any way. No, but I don't want little kids to feel, already parents feel fear letting kids out of their eyesight, when they're in public facilities. And now this just adds to it.
Coming up now on 728, we'll be back with more Winging It Wednesday. Coming up now on 729, Winging It Wednesday continues now with Warren Cottle, Carol Ross joining us in studio. All right, so third topic this morning, a new Arizona law increases the possible penalties for blocking traffic around political rallies to 6 months in jail and a $2,500 fine. The rules also prohibit public universities and colleges from blocking free speech in common areas. That measure comes after protesters blocked traffic headed to a Phoenix area rally for GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump in March. So I want to know what y'all are thinking on this. Carol, why don't you get us started on this one?
Well, this reminds me of what's his name in Catch-22, Kasabian, or I can't remember. It's Alan Arkin, and it's a Catch-22. I mean, you're prohibiting some free speech to allow other free speech. I mean, you get into this rabbit hole and you can't get out. And it's terrible what happened. It really is terrible what happened. But to have to pass laws, increasing the penalties for blocking traffic around political rallies when, you would expect that there would be free and legitimate and respectful discourse at political rallies, but, that hadn't been happening. So I guess they felt that they needed to pass a law with this fine. How are you going to collect that fine from some of these people? Some of them are hired on Craigslist to go, the rent-a-mob bunch. And so anyway, it's just very distasteful to see something like this, that you have to pass laws to allow people to have free speech, which is supposed to be guaranteed under the Constitution to begin with.
All right, Warren, your thoughts, sir.
First of all, it's illegal to disrupt a religious service and what have you. It has been for forever. Free speech is free speech. And, the political atmosphere, it's a fine line between anarchy and protest. And I think the only way that you can really put a halt to these kind of things is you really got to go after the people who organize it, control it, put money into it. Kind of like what the FBI did to the Ku Klux Klan back in the 50s and 60s and whatever, when they went in there and infiltrated all of the Klan units, and then they just simply indicted and put the Klan leader in jail. And the next thing you know, old Bubba gets arrested, and then they elect John Henry as their Grand Cyclops or whatever, and then John Henry gets elected. Next thing you know, they go to Billy Bob, and Billy Bob says, I don't want any part of this. And, these kind of things that, as Carol said, so many of these that the people are paid to go out there and protest, and then even some of them, they're now suing because they didn't get paid. They were promised they were going to be paid, but they didn't get the money. So, I mean, it's really, when it's an organized effort to go out there and disrupt something this way, then you need to go after the people who did the organizing of it.
Mm-hmm. All right, 7:33. I've got headlines coming up. Coming up now on 7:41, Winging It Wednesday continues now. Warren Cottle, Carol Ross joining us. He even danced a little bit. It was kind of wild. Callers, you can participate too. 232-1542, 232-1542. All right, so read this story, I think, yesterday or the day before. We also had Jessica Gallagher of Fox News Radio talk to us about it this morning. Iran's parliament wants the country to demand damages from the U.S. for what the lawmakers there call 63 years of hostile action and crimes against the Islamic Republic and its people. The law was passed blaming the U.S. for material or moral damage caused by a 1953 coup, the Iran-Iraq War in the 80s, the destruction of oil platforms in the Persian Gulf, and espionage. I thought it'd be great to let our former military men start on that one. Warren, what do you think?
I think what you're seeing here is what they call in the field of diplomacy soft power. That when Ahmadinejad came to the United States and stood in Columbia University and said that there was no such thing as a Holocaust and there were no gays in Iran and all of that, it wasn't whether he believed any of that or not, but what happened is that his stardom skyrocketed over in the Middle Eastern countries because simply he had the guts to go to New York and stand there and take on the United States face to face. And, this thing, what they're saying is that they just want to do to the United States what the United States has been doing the rest of the world. I mean, we shot down an Iranian plane one time, and we wound up paying reparations to them for X amount of money per person. I forgot whatever. I think it was like $25,000 a family or whatever. And so they took over our embassy and held our people for so many days, and then we impounded $150 billion of theirs. And so what they're saying is that you took over our country for 60 years and caused about 4 million of our people to be killed. You had your people going around with the Shah's group, which I was a supporter of the Shah, of course, and they actually went in the houses and cut people's tongues out who disagreed with them verbally and without any anesthesia whatsoever, went in there and whacked people's noses off in front of the family and such things as that. And they said, you terrorized our country, and so we want some money for that. Now, do they expect to get any money? Of course not. But what they will get is they will get a lot of those countries in the Middle East. Most of them do not like the Iranians because the Iranians are not Arabs. But they will at least get a lot of people from there will say, yeah, take them on. And they're going to put this thing out there to the rest of the world that says, what we're really afraid of is if the thing ever goes to court, then they will come out with all of this evidence that they have, which is mountains of it. And they're going to tell these countries that if you're a leader of one of these countries, be really afraid to be a friend of the United States, because this is what they will do to you. And then they'll start pointing out things and even bring it up to the current time about when Gaddafi was Gaddafi, he was getting along okay, but as soon as he turned out to be a friend of the United States, guess what? He got axed. When Saddam Hussein was our best friend in the Middle East, and we told him whatever you need, you will have, and it's then he became our really good friend. Then we killed him, and so and it just goes on and on. I think it's much to do about nothing. It's something for them to stay in the spotlight. And I don't even know why the United States even gives any attention to this stuff whatsoever.
All right, Carol, what do you think?
Yeah, agreed. I don't know why we give them this kind of attention. This is exactly what they want. It's a way of saying that they're on an equivalent level with the United States. And now that we have all that nuclear stuff, hey, we are. we are going to be one of the nuclear nations in the world, and you're just going to have to pay attention to us. That whole nuclear deal is really troubling on so many levels, including, we talked earlier about Ben Rhodes, who just kind of blew the lid off the whole thing and said it was all a complete lie, and we manipulated the media about the whole thing, and we weren't telling them the truth, and there's so much more that's going to come out about this thing. So I guess that Iran, including one of the things that the Obama administration was really treading water, trying to position Rouhani as a moderate. Nobody's book would this guy be a moderate. So anyway, I think that really is a ploy, as Warren said, to keep the attention on themselves. And the only people who are more fearful of this trend, this ascendancy of Iran, beyond the American people and the Israelis, are all the other Middle East nations who are very worried about the power that Iran already wields and will wield continually in the future when they get the bomb. And they are going for a bomb. It's not for peaceful power. Nobody believes that for a minute.
Coming up now on 746, more Winging It Wednesday to continue. You can call us and get in on the action at 232-1542, 232-1542. Right now, only one traffic crash to report to you. East Main Street at North Morgan. That was an earlier crash. That's East Main Street at North Morgan and Broussard. Make sure you buckle up out there. Traffic brought to you by the dental office of Dr. Samuel R. Moss and Dr. Danielle Dayque Muse. Call them today at 446-2735. That's 446-2735. 7:49, Winging It Wednesday on our Wednesday morning, powered by Service Chevrolet Cadillac. All right, so our folks are back in here. Warren Cottle, Kara Ross. All right, so one of our topics this morning was what? The Little Sisters of Hope charity?
The Little Sisters of the Poor.
I think, poor.
Yeah, because they run, charity, nursing homes and all that sort of stuff. And they did not, they run healthcare organizations. They did not want to have to give out contraceptives to their employees.
So what did the Supreme Court do?
Well, it's really interesting. The government was suing them because, under Obamacare they were going to have to do this, and they said it violated their religious precepts. They just wanted, to have some protection about this. In fact, the Obama administration was, if they would fail to provide notice or whatever, and it's the legalese term, but anyway, they would have faced $70 million per year in penalties. The Little Sisters of the Poor having to pay $70 million. I mean, just right there, that grabs you. But the Supreme Court, for the first time in my memory, has shown great restraint because they issued their long-awaited ruling in that consolidated challenge to Obamacare's requirement nonprofit employers collaborate in the provision of employee health coverage that includes abortion-inducing drugs and devices, etc. So in a unanimous opinion, all 8 justices vacated, so they erased all the lower court cases, required them to reconsider the claims brought by the Little Sisters of the Poor and others that the regulations promulgated pursuant to Obamacare violated their religious exercise, etc. So it's a victory not only for the Little Sisters, but for everybody. If many employers like the Little Sisters, Priests for Life, religious colleges and universities, they object to some of these things. And it's their religious right to do so, and that's what they asserted. Well, the Obama administration asserted they couldn't deprive anybody of any of these things, no matter what their beliefs were. So the court said, go back, negotiated, go back to the lower courts, do something about this. We don't want to rule on this per se. But, I mean, the whole idea that they were facing $70 million a year in penalties, I mean, come on.
Warren, what do you think, sir?
I don't know how much money the Little Sisters have. This thing, to me, it skews the lines of where does the government get involved in health care and where do they not. I mean, it goes back. I think that they have ruled at one time that, different religious organizations can have waivers on different kind of things that involve surgery, health care, and all that, like I think Jehovah's Witnesses, no blood transfusions. I don't know. There's all kinds of them. And so I think they've always made different allowances for religious purposes and beliefs and whatever in healthcare and healthcare delivery. And, I just think that it's probably one of those things that should have never have come up, that mandates that you have got to offer these type of things to your employees. I mean, it would be kind of like saying that, if you have someone in there who religiously does not believe in transplants, is that you have got to go ahead and offer transplants and whatever. However, I'm a little bit appalled at some of the things that you find where if a pharmacist working in a pharmacy and somebody brings a prescription in there for whatever he's objecting to or she's objecting to, then they don't have to fill it. I don't believe that that's right. I think if somebody brings a prescription in there and they've got the drugs there, then that pharmacist should have to fill it because that's their job. And but these other things, I think that you need to make some allowances on it.
Yeah, then Warren, you make a good point, because the ruling said that that the government could have accommodated the Little Sisters of the Poor all along without affecting the contraceptive coverage, but they chose not to because they wanted to make a point. That's what the court ruling pretty much says. And so we'll see what goes on from here. But they said flawed reasoning cannot be used as a precedent in the future. I think that's kind of an interesting statement, because how many times is flawed reasoning used in court cases to begin with?
It almost, when you say they did this because they wanted to make a statement, they wanted to prove a point, it almost brings up the term of bullying.
Yes, and I do have a comment about bullying, or in general. We were discussing earlier about the president saying, his statement concerning new federal guidelines on bathrooms in public schools. That he is doing that to protect transgender students from bullying. Obama telling BuzzFeed that society has an obligation to make sure everyone is treated fairly and the dignity of all children is affirmed. Now, the guidelines the administration announced late last week require public schools to let transgender students use the bathrooms and locker rooms that match their sexual identity rather than the sex shown on their birth certificates. A woman who listens to KPEL, she says, "Hi, Bernadette. As a lesbian, in quotes, and a Republican, both my wife and I are against transgendered bathrooms. The problem we face with the issue is that society confuses them with the LGBT community. Yes. There are so many homosexuals against it, but we get lumped into the community, and then it causes even more division. I just wish someone would let the people know that it's not a fight between y'all and us. It's a fight for the privacy of all Americans and a fight for what is right. If you have a penis, then you go to the bathroom designed for that particular organ. End of story. Yep. We don't care how they feel or identify. Once they have their operation to get a vagina, then she is more than welcome in the vagina-friendly facilities. Please let it be known that this is not a gay thing, and our voices will be heard regardless of who we offend."
Oh, I'm so glad she wrote that, because coming from
a lesbian
gay
couple,
person, it has a lot more weight, and that is true. So often gays are confused with transgender. It's confusing to a lot of people. If they're questioning, we're certainly questioning. I can tell you that. And when you think about the over-sexualization of our children to begin with, the overstimulation of the kids. I mean, you're talking about elementary schools here? I'm sorry. I mean, kids are questioning all the time. Your sexuality is not really affirmed until later in your life, not when you're in elementary school. I don't think.
Did you
you may have those tendencies, etc., but there are a lot of kids who experiment too.
Well, and when does a kid decide or a young person decide? I don't know. Or Well,
I think, they're born. I think people are born a certain way, but you're questioning and you're not really sure and you're experimenting and all that sort of stuff. Why have this to really, to divide people, to confuse things even more? Yeah.
Warren?
I don't want to get into that argument, but one of the things I do want to point out is that about, using the different bathrooms and all that. I know that a lot of times you go to these sporting events or whatever, concerts, and the men's restroom, there's no real line. But the women's restroom, there's like a 2-city block line to wait for them to go there. And I know that there's been some occasions where women just
I've done it.
just paraded into the men's restroom, and the men just step back. Let them.
There may be some women in this room who have done that.
I have done
frustration.
that. I have done that too.
I know I have a family member too that's done that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
So there you go. I mean, what an interesting conversation, all around this morning. All right, we've got time for one more phone call, very quick phone call, and then we'll wrap it up. Very quickly, go ahead, please.
Yeah, what makes President Obama think that that's going to stop bullying?
Truly.
when a guy comes into the girls' bathroom, the girls will probably beat him up.
All right. Well, thank you for that thought.
I actually think that's already happened. They did drum some guy out of the
really out of a restroom before. All right. So thank y'all so much, panelists. Warren Cottle, Carol Ross. They come here for a phenomenal fee that we pay them every week called free to be on this show, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, we're glad to do it. And we thank Service Chevrolet Cadillac for helping to sponsor the program,
They
too.
make this motor up.
Right.
And by the way, we are so excited about the Lady Cajuns.
They are just steaming on.
I don't care what they say. They are Lady Cajuns to me. They will always be Lady Cajuns to me.
I get you.
No gender confusion there.
All right, 7:58. Y'all have a great day. Coming up, Fox News on the way.